morning, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Today is Wednesday, November 23rd. Today's mini seminar topic is what is the Federal Reserve System? Sometimes we call Federal Reserve Bank, or sometimes we just call it central bank in US. It seems like they can do a lot of things, but most important thing is they control the monetary system in US. So we want to kind of review this topic because we had this class, sort of a seminar back in March, but a lot of people probably didn't participate the class. And also, if somebody already did, then it's a review because it's kind of a vast and complicated system, and there are many organizations in this system, so we want to review them again. Okay, this is the basic sort of diagram of the US Federal Reserve System. And the image shows very good overview of the about the U.S. Federal Reserve System. First, it's we call U.S. Central Bank, as I said. So at the top, we can say the Federal Reserve System. Okay, and we will check it out. What does it really means, and who owns this organization, and who are involved with this organization. Okay, so under this Federal Reserve System, there are three different entities. The first entity is Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Okay, so it's like board members, directors, board member directors meeting, sort of. So we call Federal Reserve of Governors. And also, there are 12 different Federal Reserve banks. Okay, so this is actual bank system. There are 12 different banks in the United States, and we're going to learn where they are located at. Okay, another entity is the famous Federal Open Market Committee. We call FOMC. Probably you hear many times, and I mean, almost every day on the newspaper, FOMC did this, FOMC will do this, etc. Okay, so three different sort of organizations under the Federal Reserve System. And basically what they do 5 key functions, okay? First, conducting the nation's monetary policy, of course, that's what we expected. Then secondly, helping maintain the stability of financial systems. Sounds good too. And third, the supervising and regulating financial institution. Okay, also that makes sense. Then fourth, fostering payment and settlement system safety and efficiency. Sounds all good. And finally, promoting consumer protection and community development. So all these 5 categories is their functions, 5 key functions. That is basically Federal Reserve System. Sometimes we call central banking system. Sometimes we call just in shortened form, the Fed, just FED. That means it's the Federal Reserve System. Okay, so let's go into a definition of the Federal Reserve System, what they are and who they are. The central banking system of the U.S. of America, which is the Federal Reserve System, which is the most powerful economic institution in the world, perhaps the world. Okay, so that's most powerful economic institution. And it was created December 23rd, 1913, with the enactment of a Federal Reserve Act signed by President Woodrow Wilson after a series of financial panics, particularly the panic of 1907, which is the Great Depression, led to the desire for central control of the monetary system in order to alleviate financial crisis. So there was a law, okay, called the Federal Reserve Act in 1913. And President Woodrow Wilson signed the act. And after that, it became most powerful economic institution in the US, probably in the world. So that's the definition of a Federal Reserve System. Okay, and who is the Federal Reserve Bank, the Fed, owned by? There are owners of this organization. Well, let's take a look at it. Federal Reserve banks are not part of federal government. Well, a lot of people, they think the Federal Reserve, because we put the federal, they think it is a federal organization, federal government, part of federal government, but it is not. But they exist because of an act of Congress. So under the law, this organization operates, but it is not federal government. Okay, we'll see how they operate and who actually are involved with this organization. Their purpose is to serve public. So is the Fed private or public? That's the question. Is a private organization or a public organization? The answer is both. It says it is private and also public. While the board of governors, I talked about like a board members, right? At the beginning, board of governors is an independent government agency. The Federal Reserve banks are set up like private corporation. So if we see this chart, the Federal Reserve Board of Governors is like federal agency, okay, government agency. But top reserve banks is corporations, okay? Then what does the Federal Reserve Bank do? I think we kind of saw the 5 different key functions, right? And in a little bit of detail, it conducts the nation's monetary policy to promote maximum employment, stable prices, and moderate long-term interest rate in the U.S. economy. That's what they do. And the second function is promote the stability of the financial system and seeks to minimize and contain system risks. Number 3, promotes the safety and soundness of individual financial institutions and monitors their impact on the financial systems as a whole. Okay, that's what they do. And number 4, fosters payment and settlement system safety and efficiency through services to the banking industry and U.S. government that facilitate U.S. dollar transaction and payment. So they sort of facilitate the U.S. dollar transaction. Well, dollar is the strongest currency, and the worldwide it is kind of a reference currency still. So they kind of taking care of the U.S. dollar transaction. Number 5, promotes consumer protection and community development through consumer-focused supervision and examination, research and analysis of emerging consumer issues and trends, community economic development activities, and administration of consumer laws and regulations. It sounds all good. So, in other words, they are the good guy, the Federal Reserve System, simply saying. Okay, this is an interesting part. Organization of the Federal Reserve, okay, how they are organized. Probably this is most beneficial information about this seminar. Then you can sort of fathom out what's going on when we say certain things like FOMC, like also central bank dollars, the Federal Reserve Dollars Bank head said something. When you read the newspaper, and you will see, aha, this is what's going on. Okay, first, as we said, the first organization in this Federal Reserve System is a Board of Governors, the 7 members. Okay, and this is important because this is federal government agency, right? This organization, 7 members. They are appointed by the President of the US, okay, and confirmed by the Senate for staggered 14-year term. Okay, for the staggered 14-year term means it's changing, but now all the members changed at the same time. Okay, it's a staggered. Okay, so some people, some members stay longer, some people change, etc. And they are led by the chair and the vice chair, whose term is 4-year and can be reappointed once. So all other members are 14-year term, but chairperson and vice chair is only 4-year term. Okay, so current chair is Jerome Powell, is the chairperson right now. And in fact, you can Google and then see all the names of all these members, 7 members. Okay, but anyway, the point, the takeaway is, the takeaway point is Board of Governors, okay, 7 members, Board of the Governors is a government agency, and President of US appoint, and they are confirmed by the Senate. Okay, and the chair and vice chair terms only 4 years, and they can reappointed. Jerome Powell is actually was reappointed, right? So it's a second term. Now, secondly, the Federal Reserve Banks. Okay, so there are 12 different banks. So therefore, there are 12 presidents. Of course, the one president of each bank, okay? And 12 Federal Reserve district boundaries are based on economic consideration. It's not based on population or not based on size of the area. It is not. Its boundary is kind of a little bit irregular, but it's based on economic consideration. The districts operate independently, but under the supervision of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Okay? So district means each central bank. Let's take a look at where they are. Okay, here's the locations. Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Richmond, Atlanta, Chicago, St. Louis, Minneapolis, Kansas City, Dallas, San Francisco. So that is why sometimes you said the Federal Bank Boston says something. You can say the Federal Reserve Boston Bank. You can say Federal Reserve New York Bank. Okay, so now you can see, which area, which Reserve Bank, Federal Reserve Bank said. So all these 12 different presidents can say different things. And we're going to take a look at the news brief. For instance, like a Dallas Central Bank, the chief economist says the home price will go down 20%. So, but that is not the overall Federal Reserve System forecasting. It's only one chief economist of a bank, like a Dallas bank, among 12 different Federal Reserve banks said. So we can weigh the importance of the news or forecast, okay, if you know this system and the organization. Okay, third, the Federal Open Market Committee. This is the famous organization to us because they control the federal fund rate. And we're talking about all the time federal fund rate in Korean 기준금리, right? 기준금리. So that's why this committee is very famous. So there are 12 members of this committee. Sometimes it is kind of hard to imagine only 12 people can control the whole world economy in a sense, because they are the most powerful organization in US and then perhaps in the world. So it is Fed's monetary policy making body who manages the nation's money policy. FOMC schedules 8 meetings a year. Remember, November 2nd and 3rd, we had one FOMC meeting, and then December is scheduled to have FOMC meeting December 13th and 14th. I don't know, it's not a regular schedule, but I know always Tuesday and Wednesday. Okay, but that's what I know because every Wednesday we have this meeting and we can tell what they decided because the meeting will end Wednesday. So only available news and information is available from Thursday. Okay, so these 12 members, how they consist of 7 members of Board of Governors of Fed. Remember the Board of Governors, totally 7 members. They are automatic member of this FOMC. Then plus the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Wow, New York, among 12 different central banks, New York Bank president is the member of FOMC, just one guy. And 4 of the remaining 11 Reserve Banks presidents who serve 1-year terms on a rotating basis. So it is a 7 Board of Governors, and then 1, the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and then 4 members, so total 12 members. Okay, so they make the this FOMC, and then they will decide federal fund rate. Okay, I think if we understand what's going on in Federal Reserve System, how they originated and how they organized and what they do. Now, when we see the news information, and we will see a little bit more, this is what's going on. So hopefully this can be helpful to everyone. 그 Federal Reserve System이라고 우리가 많이 듣는데 도대체 누가 Federal Reserve System인지 그리고 어떻게 organize 돼 있는지 어떻게 operate 하는지 그거를 조금 알면 우리가 뉴스를 접할 때 굉장히 조금 더 이해가 더 많이 될 수가 있겠죠. Federal Reserve System이라고 하는 것은 그 이제 1913년도 미국 이제 법을 만들어서 이것을 운영하게 그렇게 만들었다. 그 대통령 그러니까 대공황 이후에 위드로 윌슨이 야, 이런 대공황을 지나고 보니까 이렇게 그냥 준비 안 한 상태로 가서는 안 되겠다. 그래서 이러한 시스템을 만들어서 우리가 보호하자. 이런 목적으로 시작이 됐다고 하는 이제 시작이 어떻게 됐다 하는 거죠. 그래서 지금 현재로서는 이 페더럴 리저브 시스템이라는 것이 가장 경제적인 기구로서 미국에서는 당연히 most powerful한 가장 강력한 기관이지만 전 세계에서도 그런 위치에 있을 것이다 하는 얘기고요. 도대체 그러면은 이게 사설기관이냐 공공기관이냐 할 때에 두 가지 다라고 하는 답이죠. 즉 여기 Board of Governor는 Federal Reserve Board of Governors라고 하는 기구는 Federal Agency, 정부기관이에요. 그런데 12뱅크는 12개 뱅크가 돌아가는데 그건 또 코퍼레이션. 그다음에 오픈 마켓 커미티, 이건 뭐 커미티니까 각 조직이 이제 어떻게 되는지 되어 있는데 그래서 프라이빗이기도 하고 퍼블릭이기도 하다. 그게 더 정확한 답이라는 거죠. 어떤 사람은 정부기관이다, 어떤 사람은 아니다. 이건 완전 사설 회사, 개인 아닌 회사다. 이렇게 얘기하는 사람이 있는데 사실은 섞어져 있다. 그런 건데요. 가장 인트레스트한 것은 이 기구들이 어떻게 이루어졌느냐 하는 게 지금 인트레스트한데요. 보드 오브 가버너는 7명으로 되어 있고 그리고 이 멤버는 우선은 미국 대통령이 어포인트를 해야 되고 그다음에 상원의 인준을 받으면 된다. 그리고 각 이제 14년 텀으로 돌아간다. 근데 이제 이렇게 이제 돌아가니까 전부 다가 그만두고 싹 바뀌는 건 없겠죠. 스태거드 돼 있으니까. 그리고 체어하고 바이스 체어는 4년 텀인데 리어포인트 될 수 있다. 제롬 파울이 지금 체어인데 리어포인트 된 거죠. 세컨 텀이죠. 그래서 7명이 지금 저게 돼 있다. 보드 오브 가버너로 돼 있다. 그 다음에 이제 또 한 가지 기구가 12개의 센트럴 리저브 뱅크가 있다. 그래서 12개 로케이션은 여기 지금 나와 있죠. 이게 12개의 로케이션인데 이거는 어떤 이코노믹 바운더리로 쪼갰지 무슨 인구수를 쪼갠 것도 아니고 뭐 땅 사이즈를 쪼갠 것도 아니에요. 좌우지간 이코노믹 중요성을 생각을 해서 이렇게 나눠놨다. 그래서 이제 주의할 것은 이제 우리가 신문상에 보면은 어떤 보스턴 페더럴 리저브 뱅크에서 얘기했다. 뭐 샌프란시스코 페더럴 리저브 뱅크에서 얘기했다. 이런 게 많이 나와요. 여러분들이 12개 로케이션인 걸 이해하시고 그 지역의 프레지던트가 뱅크의 행장이 얘기했다고 그래서 미국도 전체를 대표하는 건 아니라는 거죠. 오케이? 오늘 그 포인트를 제가 이따 지적해 드릴 텐데 달러스 뱅크에서 뭐 얘기한 게 있어요. 집값이 20% 떨어진다고 하는 얘기를. 그래서 그것이 전체에 뭐 합의된 이런 포캐스트 이런 게 아니고 아까도 말씀드렸지만 이 뱅크들은 코퍼레이션처럼 움직여진다 하는 거죠. 자, 그 다음에 이제 또 중요한 것이 FOMC 미팅이라는 거 우리가 너무 많이 얘기를 듣죠. 맨날 듣는 게 FOMC. 여기서 뭘 한다? 가장 중요한 것은 미국의 기준금리를 정한다. 그래서 항상 FOMC 미팅을 우리가 결과를 보는 거죠. 제가 여태까지 보니까 항상 화요일날 수요일날 열려요. 이틀 동안. 그래서 11월 달에는 2월 2일, 3일이, 1일, 1일인가요? 이제 지나갔고, 12월 달에는 13, 14가 지금 미팅이 예정돼 있어요. 거기서 왜 우리가 그 미팅을 계속 들여다보고 있죠? 거기서 또 페더럴 펀드 레이트를 지금 0.5를 올릴 거냐, 0.75를 올릴 거냐, 또 놓고 디베이트하고 있는 중에 이번에는 0.5% 올릴 확률이 제일 높다. 그러니까 자이언트 스텝으로 안 가고 빅 스텝으로 갈 것이다. 그런 얘기인데 그럼 FOMC는 도대체 12명이 구성으로 돼 있는데 사실 12명이 이 파워풀한 이 정책을 결정한다는 게 참 어메이징하지만 아무튼 7사람은 보드 오브 가버너스가 다 들어와 있어요. 7사람 이 회의에. 그리고 우리 명예롭게도 뉴욕 센트럴 뱅크 행장이 여기 들어와요. 한 사람이죠. 뉴욕. 뉴욕은 아마도 미국 내에서 가장 중요하다고 생각을 하는 것 같아요. 그 다음에 나머지 네 사람은 이제 11명의 그 행장들 중에서 1년씩 텀으로 또 돌아가게끔 그렇게 해서 토탈 12명이 구성되어 있다. 자, 이제 조금 아마 좀 친숙해질 것 같아요. 무슨 FOMC 회의에서 뭐 펀드레이징을 페더럴 펀드레이징을 어떻게 한다. 그래서 그다음에 언제 열린다. 그래서 왜 사람들이 그 미팅을 기다리는구나. 모든 sorry. 모기지 하시는 분들이나 뭐 하여튼 은행가들이나 하여튼 경제적으로 뭐 경제가 다 이자로 돌아가는 거니까 가장 중요한 인포메이션이잖아요. 기준금리가 어떻게 되냐. 기준금리에 따라서 은행에서는 그 기준금리에 의해서 각 시중은행이죠. 펀드를 정부에서 빌려다 쓰고 그 다음에 그 돈을 가지고 또 컨슈머한테 돈을 빌려주니까 그러니까 기준금리 정부에서 은행들이 빌려다 쓰는 그 기준금리가 굉장히 중요해지는 거죠. 다 아시겠지만 이런 구조에 의해서 구성되어 있다. 오늘은 우리가 we just kind of review again about the Federal Reserve System. It's only just a 30 minutes brief, but I hope you can get the essence of the Federal Reserve System in US. And as we talked about, is most powerful economic institution in US, but also perhaps in the world. I hope this can help you to understand what's going on in the US Federal Reserve System. Thank you and see you all next week.